we are totally on time. I guess we have all the questions in the end of the session. So the next speaker will be Matthias Wemhoff, who is the director of the Museum of Vor- and Frühgeschichte in Berlin since 2008 and also head of the Cultural Heritage Preservation in Berlin. He studied medieval and post-medieval archaeology as well as history of Christianity and medieval history in Bamberg and Freiburg. In 1992, he obtained his PhD with his thesis of the Damenstift Herford. From 1994 to 2003, Matthias Wemhoff was director of the Kaiserpfalz-Museum in Paderborn and from 2003 to 2008 director of the Westfälische Landesmuseum für Klosterkultur at the Monastery of Dahlheim. Professor Wemhoff was curator of several historical exhibitions with a tremendous geographic variety as Kunst und Kultur der Karolingerzeit in 1999, die Canossa-Erschütterung der Welt in 2006, Russen und Deutsche 1000 Jahre Kunst und Geschichte und Kultur und schließlich auch die Wikinger 2014. Since 2010, he has also held an honorary professorship at the Freie University of Berlin. Matthias, please, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for the kind invitation, Isabel. It's a wonderful meeting, and it's a very good idea to make this to the 10th anniversary. I think your museum looks younger than ever. And it's really wonderful to see it, and it's also wonderful to see the parallels and the comparison to the Neues Museum. And so I will explain how our museum looked now 15 years after the reopening. So it's nearly the same, but 50 years more. And we have some parts of the museum where we think we have to change or we have to find something new, and I think this would be very interesting for the debates we have here, and so I will take my focus on these themes. So you look to the museum, and Martin has shown the island, so I think you know it very well. You see the Neues Museum here. From the other side to the Old National Gallery, that's the main entrance, but on this side we have now the new James Simon Gallery. Gallery is not the right name because it's more the entrance hall. It's for the shops, for the restaurants, for the wardrobe. So very important for us. Also for the Pergamon Museum. But now, during the next 15 years, up to 37, it's only entrance building for the Neues Museum, but you can also use the old entrance. So we have to find special solutions for this very important building. At the end of my speech, I will give you some information about our special exhibitions, which mostly placed now in these buildings. So look back. I think it's every time very interesting if you have, like here, a museum in an historical building. We have heard a lot of examples during this day, because you have, I think, mostly three stories you have to tell. You have the story of the historical building, how it was thought during the opening, and what happened then after. It's the story, and that's very strong in Berlin, from the reconstruction and restoration, and it's the story of the objects you want to tell. So it's not easy for the visitors to get all these ideas at one walk together. So that's really a special thing we have to solve here. And now look at the staircase hall. I think this shows you the idea during the opening of the museum in the middle of the 19th century. It's really old. The museum the first conception was made in 1814. The opening then in the middle of the 50s of the 19th century, and it's really another step than in the old museum. In the old museum, you have had the antique sculptures and paintings, and here, now, only 10 years later, the idea was born to make a museum for the whole cultural history. It's the first time that prehistory, early history, ethnology, and also Egyptology find a museum together in the ground floor, and then above, in the first floor and the best level, only the story from the Greek period, about the Roman period, up to the 19th century. And the first floor, this story was only told with plasters, with copies. But the deep culture and the ground floor, that have been only originals. So it's very interesting how it changed. And it was really the first time to accept an interest on deep cultures. That's very new, and it's also the idea that they have also with their myth, it's a very important theme in the museum, to bring with pictures the myth into the museum. There is experience for the whole mankind, and it's so important, like written sources, you have to accept it. That's the first time here. That's, I think, a story which is also for today interesting. And if you see this plan, I think you can remember to this museum here. It's around 2 great courts, and then you can walk around. And this is perhaps today the same situation. That's the main entrance. And you can go to the left, you can go to the right, you can go at first to the staircase. And our visitors are free, what they want to do. The Neues Museum was today the museum of the Egypt collection and the museum of my collection, prehistory and early history, and a lot of objects from the antique collection. So a lot of themes, a lot of stories, a lot of different objects inside, and the visitor has to find his way. So here on the left side, we saw the first building, the first room, which was decorated really for a museum for prehistory and early history. And look inside very soon, short, it was decorated also again with wall paintings, because they said only the objects, no sculptures and so on. It's not enough. You have to decorate it. You have to explain it. So it's a bit didactic, the idea that was there. So they painted here about the doors, a man, a grave from Stone Age, a grave from Iron Age. It's not sure. Perhaps it's a three-period system. It's the first idea. The director wrote about it and said, oh yeah, in the north they explain, they have the idea from 3 periods, but I'm not sure, and for our region it's much too complicated, and it's not possible for me to show the objects with this system, so I have to make a comparable system, so the same pottery to the same pottery, and the same stones to the same stones, no chronological idea therefore. But here perhaps he worked with this. But interesting is if you look to the grave, you see not the founds, not the objects. You see a man, and he looks alive. So it's an idea in the whole museum that you bring with the archaeological objects the experience of the persons in our present times. So it's really part of the idea to present them as man, not a skeleton, as the situation. And that's so important, to bring all generations of mankind together in this house. And also on the myths here, you see the Allvater of the Nordic myths, a very interesting decoration, but not the theme today. I said in the Neues Museum, it's very important to look to the story of the restoration, because you know it was strong demolished during World War II, and it was a ruin for more than 50 years. The museum was closed in 1939, at the beginning of the World War, and was opened in 2009. And the reconstruction starts around 1990, with, in the years before, with the first works in the time of the GDR. So it's really strong damaged, and it has totally different parts of demolition. You have parts which are very well preserved, you have parts which are strong demolished, and you have parts which are totally new. That's, I think, at least if you go to the museum, it's an interesting experience from the view of the visitors, because you awake when you went to the museum, because every room is new. You know, it's not the same. It's no, you cannot repeat it. You have to look to every room and its kind of architecture in a new way. that's the opening. I've told just about the Prince Charles with David Chipperfield on the right side during the walk some months, I think, before the opening. It's the work of David Chipperfield, this reconstruction, I think, and I've seen it here also in your museum. It was a masterpiece, and with a lot of ideas how to work with demolished museums and how to work with the layers of history. And I think that's really important. And I have the experience to work with David Chipperfield during the last 18 months, and we have before the opening, we have had a lot of discussions for every detail, and every time, is it necessary to make a reconstruction of this capital? Is it necessary to give a bit more color to the room? And we contested all. We have time enough. It was wonderful. And the idea from David was really to bring atmosphere back, to make it to a room which has an own presence, which is not a monument of destruction. It's very often, if you have buildings in Germany which are demolished in the war, you look to every destruction, and as visitor you see only destruction. If you go to our museum, you can feel that the war is one layer, one important layer, but it's only one layer of the history. And now we have another layer, and it goes on. And I think that's really very important for the success of the museum. You look to the Greek court, the wonderful court, and only short downstairs we have a very important find from Berlin Archaeology, Berliner Skulpturenfund. We have digged out 2010 in front of the Red Town Hall in Berlin, and that's the last objects of the exhibition with the Nazis did, the degenerate art. And we found, as archaeologists, the last depot of the degenerated art. And what overlived are only the objects from stone, from iron, from ceramic, like all archaeological objects we have. And so this find was also interesting to understand the kind of objects we have in our museum. And it was a very interesting idea to understand that it's very difficult for us to understand what could had happened with our objects before we find them. Nobody came to the idea that this sculptures has been objects of such an exhibition like the Nazis have done. So it's only one. It's very difficult for us to understand what has happened. So to the floors. It's the same like here. We have also a new deep floor and 3 other floors. And it's a long way for the visitors to walk to these halls. And we have seen the pictures from the Humboldt Forum. One floor on the Humboldt Forum has more than 10,000 square meters exhibition place. We have the same number in 4 floors. So it's much better for the visitors, because every time when they move to another floor, they can think about it. They have time. They look again in the staircase hall. They look into the courts. And it's very important to have breaks in the exhibition. So that is one experience we have, and to have different experiences between the floors. Otherwise, it's too much to understand it. So I want to make with you a very short walk through the floors, not to the ground floor. It's a special theme because one time there's a lot of Egyptian exhibition, but we have there also themes, very complex themes from all collections together. And I have the feeling that it's not possible for visitors to understand what we have thought with the construction of these objects. So it could be much too high, the idea of conception. So if we go to the first floor, we have this room. I have shown you the old pictures here. You go here around, that are the rooms of our collections, that are the rooms of the Egypt collection. And here this is perhaps a point where we want to change our conception. We have had there a room with the history of our museum. So it would be the best place because of the paintings and so, but it was not of interest for the visitors to go to showcases, to know who was the founder and what happened there and the story. And it was the wrong place at the beginning. At the beginning, the visitors want to have a big scenery or a big story, something which is easy to understand, which makes it's possible for them to go inside. And I have met the experience that their own history, and she's interesting for all of us, is not so important for the visitors. So we will change it now, and we will start with the story of Heinrich Schliemann, because every German nearly know Heinrich Schliemann. And then as next, the objects from Troy will follow. So we have a very hard story at the beginning. And so this is the idea for the next month. If we go to the next floor, we have really, here, it's, wait, to the next floor, where we really a very long walk, and in the center there is Nefertiti. So Nefertiti really is the main aim of all the visitors, and they come to it, and then they have a very long enfilade. And during this enfilade from one big room with Nefertiti to the room on the other side, where the Helios stood, the very big antique sculpture, they cross over 17 meters, and this is very important. Wait, again. So this is now the second floor. You see here Nefertiti, and at the end you see the sculpture of the Helios, the one line. And at this floor you can see very good how the visitors interact in the museum. Perhaps the French word flaneur is the best for it. They walk from one area to the other, and if they see something of interest, they stop. But the program is so full in the Neues Museum that they have no idea, therefore, for example, I have to see this and this, I have to learn. It's in every task, it's every time looking what is of interest, where I stood and where I will stand, where I will look, where I will read. And it's not so easy to find the way for all the visitors. So here you have enough to see with wonderful rooms, with wonderful decorations. In the center we have this beautiful Bacchus-Saal with great windows from the antique collection, this wonderful sculpture, and also a very new, very important find for Roman objects from the River Rhine. And then we come to the Roman Hall, and then to this hall with the Helios here. Perhaps you can look to the showcases. The idea was really to make tables so that you can see the floor, because the walls are damaged in some parts, also the ceiling, but the floor is reconstructed in the whole building, and that was the idea of the architects that bring it together. So we have only table showcases in this floor, and then also on the back a lot of objects. This is the medieval room. Before now it's our presentation for objects from the Germanen, and now we come to the last big room, and it's a wonderful room. I have not time to explain it, but it's the biggest room in the conception of the Neues Museum, because it's a room for the objects from the Renaissance to the 19th century. So it's the view that the presence is the most important thing. You have seen all the other periods, but every period is a bit more nearer to the knowledge than the period before. And this picture of history is broken with the Second World War, so it's also another story in the building. You can feel it. This hall was constructed as in relationship to a pre-early Christian church, a basilica in Rome. That was the idea of the king during this room, and so there are some elements of our presentation which work with this idea. Otherwise, you look here again to the showcases. Our idea was to present objects perhaps like they would be in a colored book in the 19th century. So from the arrangement, it's a good atmosphere how to present these objects on the back side. Yes, for example, this is a situation in the middle where we have objects from Rome, from another collection, a wonderful coin from Charlemagne, so that you also walk with the architecture and the centralization of the architecture at this place. Now, the third floor, I think it's also interesting for our discussions because there we have really old showcases. I'm not really sure whether they come from the Neues Museum, but they were used from our collection around 1870, so really old. And we have pictures with Heinrich Schliemann in front of these showcases. And I think it's a wonderful presentation. It works nearly without artificial light, so it's like the museum, closed when it will be dark, so then you see nothing, or nearly nothing. It's so that it's not so easy also for visitors to understand this idea at the moment, but they like the room, they like the atmosphere, and we explain a bit how collections came together in our museum, but the most visitors look here and look there and walk then to the next room, but I think it's really a very nice place. And then in a totally other room, the modern archaeology of Berlin is the next, so we counter in a special way the old parts of our collections, the collections from the 19th century, with modern archaeology, because also all objects from Berlin archaeology are part of our collection, and so we have a lot of archaeology of 20th century, of World War II, of Berlin Wall, and something else, all in this black box in the next room. And then, okay, we go to the Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age rooms, and this was a very long discussion because at first the same kind of showcase, like in the main floor, was also planned for this floor. Also again, table showcases, and I took then the decision, no, we will make another concept and we need time for that, so that we make experimental exhibitions 2-3 years there, and then we make the decision to find other solutions and different solutions for every of these halls, and solutions which belong to the objects, because it's not easy to explain Stone Age and table showcases. And so here we see the presentation, the wide presentation of the Stone Age, the strong presentation of the Bronze Age. It's really nearly a liturgical presentation and shows the religion of the Bronze Age, and at the end you see the golden head. Wait. So the golden head, it's an interesting presentation because if you stand in the beginning of the room, you only see the gold, nothing else. And if you go inside, you see the golden head without information. But then you can go around and you get a lot of elements to understand this golden head. And this is also a part where we take some changes in the moment. For example, on the right side, that's our objects from an important chamber grave of the Bronze Age, and we made a new decoration which shows the color in which this chamber grave was decorated. They are very important for our region. Here you see the golden head. At the end, only golden, and then around here, this round construction every time to look to the golden head. It functioned very well. Then the Iron Age, also another way to explain. Here are the objects from Latin, Mark. So like in the water, and skeletons and other objects together. And now, very short, what we will do in another way, so not in the permanent exhibition, but in the temporary exhibitions. You have heard some. We have worked very strong together with Russia because they have really the main objects of our collection, or the golden objects and so on, are in Russia, and a lot of other objects, and we wait that they come back, but I think we have to wait longer now, and we have worked strong together, but now also we have made a lot with other countries. The this was a very important exhibition to actualize the research to Germanen, also with contact to the actual political discussions. It was very important, but it was Corona, so the catalog is much more important than the exhibition. Schliemanns Welten, Anna, so wonderful that we can show the objects from Museeen also inside. And this was a very personal story to show the person of Henry Schliemann before the archaeology, and the second part then with the archaeology. Also you can look inside here, very successful exhibition. That's our last one, Uzbekistan and the archaeology of the Kushan period. And we have strong contacts to Uzbekistan. I think all the objects we have shown there were never been outside of Uzbekistan, and wonderful plasters also from Buddhism and so on, and really a very, very interesting exhibition and a very great political event. So also in the Greek court we can make a banquet with meal from Uzbekistan. And our next plannings are in 26 we will make an exhibition with Mongolia about Genghis Khan and his time to the 800th anniversary. And we are creating another event with Turkmenistan 2 years later about the Parthians and Nisa. So that's the ideas where we work at the moment.
Yeah.